right. I'm Liz Harrison, and I hereby open the December 19th, 2022 meeting of the Brattleboro Housing Partnership at 4:30 p.m. Let's review the minutes of October 24th. And if anybody have any questions or concerns, okay. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I was going to ask a question. You have November 14th as well.
Yes.
Would you to accept both of them at the same time or each individually?
Separately.
Okay.
Okay.
I move that we accept the minutes for October 24th, 2022.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Accepted. The minutes of November 14th. Does anybody have any questions? If not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes for the November 14th minutes?
I shall move.
Thank you, Byron. Second?
I second it.
All in favor? Please say aye by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Okay. Is there any resident and citizen participation that we know of? I guess not. Okay. Let's go on to the executive director's report. Christine, I'll let you review that.
So we have two HUD plans, annual plans that are currently in review, and they will come up at the January meeting. The first is our HUD annual plan, which we do every year, which really outlines any big initiatives that Brattleboro Housing Authority is going to do in the next year. And this year we will be putting our strategic plan into that. So that work that you did last year will be very helpful. The other piece that is a little bit of a larger change is our Moving to Work supplemental plan. So Moving to Work is the program that we applied to 2 years ago. And every year we're able to submit a supplemental plan that offers waivers to our program. And this year we are focusing on programs, our Family Self-Sufficiency Program. The Family Self-Sufficiency Program is a program through HUD that supports people in finding employment and also education. And we are able to accept waivers for that program. And so that information will be coming to you in the next board packet. We're just getting information now from public meetings. We've been doing that for the past several months. And then once that information is compiled, it will be given to the board for review and then for your acceptance. So we put in the timeline so you have an understanding of how this works for the Moving to Work plan. Any questions about that piece?
I have a question when you're going about timeline for the plans and you got public hearings. Now, how will that be open to the public?
They're open over Zoom. So they've been
over Zoom.
Yeah, they've been posted legal notices and over Zoom. And we've also presented it at our our RAC meetings, Resident Advisory Communication Board meetings. We've presented that at that meeting. We've also had resident meetings on the family sites already. And so those meetings have been done, but these are for final review.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this for the just cause eviction, Christine, and the HUD?
No, this isn't about just cause eviction. This is about changes to our personal supplemental plan.
Okay.
Yep, it's our annual plan. And then just to give you some information, the next bullet, I went to the landlord lunch. The landlord lunch is a regular monthly lunch that was pretty regular before COVID and is starting up again with local landlords in the community. And I attended that meeting. David DeAngelis formerly would attend. And so since he's been on leave, I went to this meeting and there was a lot of conversation around the just cause eviction, and I outlined in my notes some of the concerns that the landlords have. I thought that was really important for you as the board to understand what many of the landlords are thinking about, especially people who participate in our Section 8 program. As you know, we work with over 100 landlords in the Section 8 program. And so getting their thoughts on this is extremely helpful, because we in case it impacts our program at all.
Right.
Will there, what's the follow-up to those conversations? Is there anything other than the landlord lunch that will be talked about with like the Section 8 landlords, or was that the only place?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we could have a meeting to talk about it with landlords again and get more feedback from them. I would be willing to open up a public meeting for them to come and talk to me. I have been able to get a lot of their concerns from emails, and I've been getting a lot of information. At this point, I think they are really looking to talk to legislators about this, to really help them to understand their point of view and the risk that this might be for them. And so they are really taking that initiative themselves at this point.
Thank you.
And I did explain that we are, as a housing authority, we're already under the constraints of a just cause eviction and how that works in our eviction, when we need to terminate a lease.
Now, these are meetings that you meet in person or Zoom, via Zoom, or have you met in person before, the landlords and the general, or the new ones, the two?
The landlord meeting is a monthly meeting, and it's primarily in person.
Okay.
That's great. Are there any more? Christine, did you have any more comments about your
I just wanted to say, I wanted to mention in my report, I also mentioned that Byron is resigning from his position. So I wanted to formally thank Byron. We were going to thank you at the party, so hopefully we'll get to do that when we meet again in January. But we wanted to also, I just wanted to express my extreme gratitude for your time on the board. It has been really wonderful for me as a new executive director, and you were just really a pleasure to work with. So I hope you know that.
I do. And it's been wonderful for me as well.
Yeah. We all feel that way.
I've only known you for a few months, but you have good input.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can say thank you for that time. Seems like I've known you all my life.
So other than that, I just, let you know that the hiring is ongoing for several positions. We have our bank merger has been complete, which is great. We still have surveillance staff at SCA at the Samuel Elliott Apartments, which is ongoing. All of our partners have signed our memorandum of understanding for the SASH for All program. And we've been working on budgets and our audits. And the audit has been complete. So that's good news. The BHA audit.
Sure is.
It will be coming out in your packet next month.
Super.
The hiring looks like it's a continuing big task.
It is. And we've had several interviews that have gone great. And then we've called people back and they have taken other jobs already. It's just it's been really challenging to find staff, but we've onboarded a couple of new staff and that has been great, but we are still continuing to hire.
It's not just us.
I guess with the hiring, is it something that it's become not just a challenge, but a hurdle for some trying to get aboard here, working, that you've come across the same, basically, looking for somewhere to move, or, I guess I'm just trying to get an idea what the reason for their turnaround.
For
positions, yeah.
I think it's a lot of things. I think that there's just not a lot of, there's not a huge pool of people
Right.
with a lot of experience in the community. And I think there's more jobs right now. I think, our unemployment rate is at an all-time low. So it's just, I don't think that there's, and it's hard. I think it's hard for people to move to this area. I don't think it's the easiest place to move to. And, I think there's a lot of reasons.
I agree.
But, we continue. I mean, and we're pretty picky. I mean, we have to be very picky. We have a very, we serve, our job is to serve a very vulnerable population. And so we can't just bring anyone in. They need to really understand the challenges of many of our residents. And so that might be a little bit of a barrier too.
And have that passion and compassion of being involved, working with the community and with people. We have a very unique area here and special needs and stuff. You have to have those people to have their heart in that as well.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. But we've had some luck, and I think sometimes it just takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And and we've been able to do that. So that's good.
And I'm thinking the seasonal too. I think it'll probably pick up. Like now it's winter and totally understandable, and I'm thinking spring, it'll kick off.
Any other comments that you'd like to make on your report, Christine?
The only other thing was we had a resident meeting at the end of October at Red Clover Commons, and I just included those notes as well.
Yeah, those were great notes. Does anybody have any questions about the meeting notes?
Nope.
Okay. Then the monthly property management update for November. What kind of questions do you all have about that report? Byron?
I just want to know how to arrange for you to deliver a dumpster to my apartment.
I know we've had to order special dumpsters too. It's been a whole thing. So
that was a wonderful thing to do.
I hope so. We're trying it out. I think it will be. I hope it's really helpful. And we did. Yeah. So we did we did the inspections recently, and we had large dumpsters come to the property for people to get rid of things. Yeah, and I forgot that's what you meant. And then we are going to start having some dumpsters at the at the Ledgewood Heights property. And we hope there's a lot of barriers with the pay as you throw bags.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Hayes Court doesn't have the dumpsters either.
But we have more people living at Ledgewood. Hayes Court has 70 residents, whereas Ledgewood has over 130. And so it's a harder, and it's families, which I think just create more stuff.
Certainly do.
Yeah.
So I guess a question with that, we spoke about this with, monitoring the dump, people illegally or whatever. How were we going to implement that in that aspect? Because I think we mentioned it's going to be a one-time getting everything out your apartments one time, and then after that, I don't know how we would monitor that, because it's going to be locked. I don't know how that would work if people have their own key. I mean, that could be a challenge too. And that means that's more dumping for you guys.
Yeah, so it is going to be locked, and we have cameras that we are installing to be set up. So it is going to be a gated area, and that it's going to be locked. And so residents are going to have to, it's going to have to be locked. It's going to be, the door's going to lock. And so I think that, we're hoping that we're letting residents know that it's a pilot project. So if they bring a lot of stuff from other places, that we're going to not be able to continue to do it. And we're trying it out for 6 months. We have at the San Manuel Department, Red Clover Commons 2, and A.W. Richards. We have trash removal, and we don't have an increase of people bringing things there.
And Steve said certain days it'll be set up. And I mean, a lot of people now are working now, as you said, to just trying to get that time slot. So that's something to be with a work in progress. I guess the kinks worked out with that.
So the dumpsters have already been there. So we already did the large dumpster days. Those we do, and we have staff on site when that happens. So we already did that. So that has been completed. That was done right before the annual inspection. So that it really gave people the advantage of cleaning out their apartments before we went in and inspected. So that was great. And now the permanent dumpsters will be there, but they will be there all the time.
Oh, I think that's when I was getting my makeover. Sorry. I think I missed it during that, but it's good because, I was just thinking, how big Ledgewood is, like you were saying. So they'll have one or two dumps, one at the bottom and one. How did we say that was going to be one up in the top area?
There will be two. Yep. Okay. 2 areas.
Great. Any other comments or questions about the property management update? Okay. The resident wellness and service, wellness and service monthly board report. Any questions about that? Great SASH flashes and resident memos and flyers. There are lots of information for all the residents. It's wonderful. Does anybody have any questions or comments, Byron?
It talks about violence and drug use. To what extent are those a problem for us?
Which part are you reading, Byron?
I have to find it again. Why don't you go ahead? I'll find it.
Okay. Was it in one of the was it in one of the newsletters or was it in the report?
It was in the report.
Page 3.
Page 3.
Next to last paragraph.
Bottom of page 3.
Next to last paragraph.
In Shauna's report, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Big focus within.
Oh, I think that they weren't necessarily talking about our housing sites. She was talking about the other housing sites in general throughout the drought. So we're the designated regional housing organization. And so we work with programs in Springfield, throughout Windham and Windsor counties, all of the SASH programs. And so she was talking a little bit about that. And I think the broad conversation has been for all of the designated regional housing organizations throughout the state is that they are seeing an increase in struggles with substance abuse disorder and all of the other pieces that go along with it. And so they had talked a little bit about the idea of carrying Narcan. I personally, to be honest, if there is a concern, I would rather have staff come and talk to me about a specific concern at a property site. I don't want our staff to be carrying mace on properties. I think that it's a real danger. And I don't think that our insurance policy would probably cover that. And so that's something for us to think about. And then the other piece, and I don't know, if there's other organizations that are thinking about that. But I think also, so with the Narcan, we have explored the idea of having staff carry Narcan, but we've had mixed sort of feelings from staff after we attended a training for Narcan, that sometimes when people are revived, they get upset. And so I think that our staff didn't want to be in a position to do that. And so we are still exploring that. And we've reached out to our insurance company as well. I mean, our policy has always been to call 911 immediately. And that's why we have that in place, those protocols in place. But I think at this point, we're not we're not having staff carry Narcan.
I think there should be a 911 and as you say, when they come out of it, they can become violent. So I think personally, I think it would be something for your first responders.
My question was. My question was only how serious is this a problem in our housing?
Well, I think there's substance abuse disorder. People have substance abuse disorders in our housing site, just like everywhere else in the community. So I think that is a real concern. I think that's why we've tried to have more support staff as possible on site. And we're continuing to try to hire for that, to have more people on site. I think that's our best reaction to this. And then if there's ever a police report, or if there's a situation where someone is arrested for drug use, we immediately move towards eviction. We have several people right now that we have terminated their leases for drug use on the properties. Unfortunately, because it's federally funded, we don't have a lot of gray area with that, and so we really do need to move towards an eviction if people are selling drugs on the property.
So, Christine, during the winter time, is that something that that's moved upon? I know they have that winter exception with the state, so I didn't know if that's something. Even though they get an eviction, they still have time.
At this point, the only exception was during the moratorium of evictions during the pandemic, but we don't have a seasonal moratorium in the state.
Any other questions or comments in the report? Okay. The SASH flash, the resident memos and flyers were great. I don't have any comments on those. Does anybody else? All right. Have the HCV administrator housing choice voucher programs care report? Any questions or concerns about that report?
I'm sorry, which report?
It's the Section 8 shelter plus care.
Okay.
Yeah, the yellow sheet.
Yeah. Oh, the yellow sheet. Okay, so you're way ahead of me.
Goodness, they're color coded.
Oh, here we go. Wow, we went through these quick.
Yeah.
Now, is there funding for this again, Christine, or they say it's still you have to wait? Is there a waiting list for this with the funding?
For our Section 8 program, our wait list is closed. We have capped our funding. Yep. So our wait list is closed. So we're continuing to work off our wait list. The Vermont State Housing wait list is open currently. They have many, many more vouchers. And so that program is open. The only wait list we have open right now is our Main Street voucher wait list. And then also we are still having people sign up for the Shelter Plus Care program, but that's a specific Section 8 program.
Okay, I see.
Any other questions or concerns about this report?
Nope, that's perfect.
Okay. Financial review, October 22nd comparables. And
so James Griffin is here. He's the fee accountant for Brattleboro Housing Partnership. So he agreed to attend. So if anybody has any questions specifically about the monthly comparative, you may ask away. This is a good time for that.
Byron?
I just want to say that I was delighted at long last to find you in a month where income or expenses didn't do better than expected.
Okay.
I'm not serious. It is so uniformly positive looking, and I had to find some fault some month.
Yes. Things look good, but yet don't forget now we are going into the winter months.
Right.
Right.
So just to warn the board now that I would say winter months are 65 to 70% of expenses compared to the summer months. So we'll see what happens when we get through the next 4 months, I would say.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to look at rates going up for your fuel, rates going up for your electricity. Right. So we have to, and they're not just going up a few dollars, they're really going up. So I think at the end of the season, it might be shocking.
Yes. Between fuel and electricity, correct.
Right.
Right.
Well, I guess the question I wanted to ask Jamie and Christine, since the COLA went up, as we know, I just got mine's just going up this month. With that taking into consideration, there's no adjustment in cost with rental or anything with, or is that based, is that going to be going up? Is there a fluctuation with that as well too? Or how would that
work? Do you mean your Social Security?
Correct.
Yeah, Christine can better go into this, but what'll happen is as tenants come up on their recertifications or interims, depending on whether or not they had some loss of job or a new job, what'll happen is the tenants, for the most part, the elderly, since the elderly got their COLA raise for Social Security, their 30% of income will probably go up, which will help the bottom line. But even at, what was it, almost 9%, Christine, is that what it was?
8.7, 8 point something, yeah.
Yeah, 8 point, yeah. Even at the 9% bump, it probably won't off, that's just the elderly project. So again, that won't help the overall, all 4 properties, but it'll offset some of the added costs relating to utilities probably. But again, we won't see that increase until they come in for research. So as it could take 12 months by the time you see the full effect of the 8.7% increase on COLA.
And that's even with the Section 8 voucher as well too, because I know that's going to be adjusted as well by your increase.
Uh-huh.
The Section 8 is a little different in the sense that, again, it's 30% of a tenant's income. So depending on whether or not the tenant's a elderly or a family, and I don't know the breakdown of your Section 8. I know some housing authorities in my area, a lot of their Section 8 is more family and not elderly.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't really, and again, with Section 8, all it does is if the tenant portion goes up, the HAP comes down a little, but if it goes the other way, the HAP goes up. So the biggest effect by the 8% would probably be your RAD properties for the most part.
Okay. Thank you.
And we don't do a interim re-examination while we're just for that. So if somebody, so we do that annually. If somebody has an income change, like from a job or they lost a job, then we do that as an interim, but we don't do the annual. We wait for the annual for the Social Security change.
Well, some of that Social Security uplift is going to be taken away by the Part B increase in premium, and so it's not.
So it'll be the adjusted gross income.
Yes,
that we'll be looking at.
Right. It might have gone up 8.75, but by the time you back the adjustments for the deductions and like that, it will not be 8.75 on the rental income. No.
That's right.
Oh, okay, I got it. Well, that makes sense.
Good. Any other questions about those topics? Any questions about the checklisting? The green sheets? All right. If not, everybody have a chance to review the A.W. Richards, Red Clover Commons, and the 2023 annual budgets. All right.
And so out of the 3 budgets, the one budget that you should probably think the most, the one budget that makes us the most concerned for sure is the A.W. Richards budget. So the A.W. Richards property has never been a property that has done financially well. And we've always struggled since the building was put into use. And we are about a year and a half away from from the tax credits expiring, which would give us some options to make some adjustments. And so because the cash flow is so tight, I am in talks with Evernorth to see what, if at all possible, they can do to support us in this building, because it really does struggle financially. I think there were a couple of years, James, where we didn't take our management fee. And so the building itself owes us approximately $80,000. What?
Yeah, approximately $80,000. And we haven't paid this year's payments. Right now, I think it's a little over 30. So, if we don't make this year's payments, it'll be close to $110,000.
So how do you recoup that, I guess, or?
So that's the money that this building owes the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. How do we recoup it? Is that we don't, we're only a partial owner of this building. We manage the building and we're a partial owner. We don't. So it's really working with Evernorth, hopefully, to help us to come up with some other funding sources. It just, and I don't have enough of the historical. I wasn't here when the building was created. I wasn't here when the performer was done. So
neither was I. I just want one record. Neither was I.
So this building has struggled before any of us were here, and so it's continuing to have this conversation. And so I did set up a meeting. We've been meeting with them around the HVAC system, which needs to be replaced. We've been meeting with them around lots of these big, huge tickets that need to be done. And so we're hoping that they can come up with some creative way to benefit this, and that we could pay the Brattleboro Housing back for our management fees.
Has it ever gotten to this point before? Or is this something because of during the COVID and it's just?
I think it's been like this. James, you can.
It's been like this since I picked it up, which was a few years before COVID. And based on that, I would say, not being there from day one, but if I had to guess, it's been like this since day one. The numbers were, and I hate to say it like this, but I'm sure the numbers were adjusted in the pro forma some way to make it look like it was going to be okay. But then in reality, probably 12 to 18 months after it went into operations, the pro forma expenses didn't really match the actual expenses of the building.
Right.
And as we've discussed before, the building is highly debt leveraged. And it's really the debt payments that this building can't meet. If you look at RCC and RCC2, the principal payments and debt payments on those buildings are easily covered by the current year's net income, whereas this building doesn't generate any cash to pay those debts. And on top of that, there's no extra cash to be set aside for a replacement reserve, which RCC and RCC2 have. And the replacement reserve is what Christine is speaking of, like when the HVAC goes or when the roof needs to be replaced or something of that ilk. Most of these projects have had mandatory replacement reserves set up over the years that would have set aside, $80, $100, $150,000, depending on how long they've been operating and how much was set aside each month. That this building never had the cash flow to set that reserve up. So as Christina said, things need to get fixed now, and there's no money to make these expenses, to pay these expenses.
Do the businesses at A.W. Richards, do they have regular rent hikes, or can that be?
We can increase the rent somewhat there, but we also want to keep those businesses there. I think that the problem is like at our other housing sites, we will be raising the rents for our tax credit properties for anything that's on the Section 8 voucher program, but these aren't tied specifically to vouchers.
Right.
Yeah. And the budgets that you're seeing for the 2023 period for all three projects don't reflect any increases yet. So even though the net incomes might be small on RCC and RCC2 or a slight negative, I'd have to go back and look. That doesn't project the expected calendar year 2023 Section 8 adjustment for rent. So again, the RCC, what you see for RCC and RCC2 are probably very conservative budgets. most likely we might do better than those given the possible rent increases. Whereas, as Christine said, AWR is not tied to Section 8 for the most part. So therefore, we're not guaranteed every year to see a rent increase.
Okay.
So I think that I think the hope has always been that we would get to the end of the tax credit and then we would be able to renegotiate additional tax credits or renegotiate additional programs. But that is we're still looking at another year and a half. So I think that we need to get these conversations started and thinking about how to creatively finance this building in a way, because the rents are just not going to cover it at this point.
Right.
I mean, it's not, we're as lean as we possibly could be. You can only be so lean. And I don't, at this point, it's really, there's nowhere else. We're not spending anything additionally in this building. It's just a really difficult building to cash flow. It's a small building as well. It's not, we don't have it's only 21 units.
Oh, okay. I mean, people looking for office spaces or anything nonprofit, have you come across people looking to fill in or come in nonprofit, well, business-wise or whatever in the area, or new, to help that out? Or
I'm sorry, what are you asking? I didn't understand.
Well, you were saying to recoup and this to get that cash flow coming back. I didn't know, is there any vacancies in that place right now?
No, we keep that building we keep it as tight and we turn over as quickly as possible. There's nowhere else to put people. And we can't just change the rents in the units. We have to follow a tax credit. We have to follow a formula. So
right.
it doesn't, we can't just all of a sudden change the cost, how much we're going to charge for rents. We have 2 commercial spaces and we can look when we renegotiate their contract, but as you know, there's a tremendous amount of commercial space available for other people. So we don't want to lose them either.
Right. I mean, right now we're having that influx coming up. You see businesses coming up and cropping up, we have things with certain regulations, as you know, getting in there. But that's the I guess the course of looking to advertise for other businesses, as we know, coming into Brattleboro. People looking to set up business or places like that in small little areas like that, as you see up at the outlet, places like that. And there's always that possibility.
We don't have any space to rent. And we have 2 commercial spaces that are already filled, and we could talk to them about increasing their rent. However, we have the 21 units of apartments that are already full.
Right.
And just to further the point that Christine was making, you have 21 units in there that are leased to tenants. Of that, 20 of those units are paying less in rent than the 1 bedrooms for RCC and RCC2.
And that's because of Section 8?
Right, the RCC and RCC2 are Section 8 driven, right? And they're getting paid $866 a unit, while 20 of the 21 in AWR are paying less than the $866 per unit because of the low-income housing tax credit rules and regulations.
Okay. All right.
So it's just something it's important for you to be aware of. It's not that, I think it's important to have this full disclosure of a conversation and to know that we're working on it. But I don't want you to think like, this isn't ideal. This isn't what we want. I mean, we definitely want to pay ourselves for management fees. We definitely want to be able to put money in reserves.
Right. And again, I would tell the board and Christine, and she's right, that I don't think the answer to the problem is for the housing authority to forgo its management fees or their maintenance fees or their payroll that they're collecting, just because we have those expenses are part of the housing authority's operations for all programs, and AWR should pay their fair share no matter what. And if you forgo those expenses, they're not paying any of their fair share for overhead of the housing authority. And that's not right. And on top of that, I hate to say it like this, you only own 0.001% or 0.01% of that building. You're just the managing agent. Technically, the owner is 99.99% of someone else. So if the building's not operating correctly, I hate to say it like this, I know they don't care because they get their tax credits, but technically you don't own it.
Right.
You manage it.
Well, are the tax credits required such that you can't get more money? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Christine. I'll have to talk to
Yeah, the
everyone
funding,
about that.
I mean, we would have to dive a little deeper, and I'd have to bring more information, but there is, yes. So the way the building was originally funded is by having these different types of tax credits in the building. And there's a different, it's not all straight one type of funding. So there's multiple different types of funding. So depending on the unit, there's different funding sources. So we can't, a lot of our other properties, we have a straight application, and you're under a certain income, so you get to, you're eligible. This building is a little unique in that we have some market rents, we have some, low income apartments, and they're all tied to different funding sources. And so we have to yearly meet those requirements. Okay. And so we are able, when we are able to increase the rent, we certainly will. However, at this point, there's not that much we can do it, as of today. Hopefully we'll be able to increase it a little bit this year, but there are constraints as to how much we can. We can't just decide that we're going to increase the rent and charge whatever we want. Yeah.
Okay.
It is for a small building, it's a complicated building. It's the most complicated funding source building we have. And it's not a lot of units. And it has a very complicated, the way the heating system was set up from day one was never great.
Yeah. Is there any other building that's like close to it, like to that kind of funding setup? Or
no, all of our other buildings are straight. I mean, we have the RAD properties, and then we have our tax credits, but those tax credits at RCC 1 and 2 are straight. They all are tied to a Section 8 voucher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you need a motion that we accept the annual budget for A.W. Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Second? Byron, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So Red Clover 1. Anybody have any questions about that budget? May I have a motion to accept the annual budget for that?
Motion, we accept the annual budget.
For Red Clover 1.
Red Clover 1.
Unless you have any questions. Byron?
Oh, no. Sorry.
That was a question or moving to accept it?
I was seconding that motion.
Or second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Potential need a motion to accept Red Clover 2 annual budget. Anybody, unless anybody has any questions?
A motion that we accept Red Clover Commons 2.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, check signing assignments, January, February, March. I'm glad to take February. I'll be out of town one weekend in January. Can anybody take January?
I can take it.
Okay.
And I'll take March.
Great, super.
That's for
Check signing.
Oh, okay. Didn't hear. Okay, sorry.
And I don't know if anybody has any questions for James, but if not, he can leave if you don't have any further questions for him around finance, or you're welcome to stay, James.
No, I will take my leave unless the board has any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good all, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
You too.
And I'll
Thank you
talk
for
to
your
you all
input.
soon.
Great.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay. All right.
So January is, I'm sorry, I just wanted this, I'm writing this down, Elizabeth. January is covered by who for check signing?
Pat.
Pat, okay, and then
I'm taking
February.
Liz.
Okay, and then March is?
Alicia.
And then I guess April could be me.
Okay.
I'll be spring. So do you want to go, do you want to go down the list now, I think, Elizabeth? And
Pardon?
Christine, now to do the list? Who wants to do the check signing?
We just did.
For 3 months.
Oh, you go
3 months
3
at a time.
months. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, at that point we might have a new commissioner, so we'll wait until then.
Gotcha.
Hopefully we have a new commissioner by that point.
All right.
So has everybody reviewed the board schedule for 2023? And does anybody have any questions or issues? All right. So do I have a motion that we accept?
I was just going to ask one question. The August meeting says no meeting. I just didn't understand why.
Yeah, we don't have an August meeting.
Okay. I just curious. Okay.
Summer vacation.
Oh, okay. Those are
But
good.
the January meeting is soon. It's on the 9th. And that the January meeting is always weird because we have to get it in a certain number of days, 75 days before the new fiscal year. And it never really works out to have it later in the month. So we need to have it on the 9th.
Isn't that one usually at noon too, or are we? Because it says 4:30. For some reason I thought that was at noon. No,
the only one that's at noon is the annual meeting. That's
okay.
the regular annual meeting in November. So, but the one where we vote for the annual plan is in. I know it's weird.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's TBD, to be determined in person or hybrid, I guess you say.
Nope. The January, February, and March are all the hybrid.
Oh, no, it says November annual meeting TBD means to be determined.
Oh, yeah, to be determined where we're going to end up having it. We always have it at a different housing site.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'm just going to question mark that.
December, January, February, March is electronics so that we are all safe off the roads.
Okay.
And,
I wish I could. I'm working at Goodwill. I gotta work.
okay, has everybody reviewed the conflict of interest policy?
Oh, I do need a vote on the board meeting, the time. So
Sorry, my apologies.
No, that's okay.
Absolutely. A motion to accept the board meeting schedule?
I
motion that we accept.
Okay.
Delicious, seconded. Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the conflict of interest policy?
My main question was, since I live in housing, I just wanted to know what a conflict would be for me.
So the way the conflict of interest policy is written would be if there was an issue that came up that you believe that you had a conflict of interest, or somebody on the board believed that there was a conflict of interest of another board member, that could be brought up in the meeting, and then the board votes on that. If so, a conflict of interest, Pat, would be something that would affect you specifically. It wouldn't necessarily be your housing site because that affects all the other, the 62 other residents in the building. It would be something that would directly impact you for personal gain.
Okay,
So like an example, how would that be, Chrissy? Because it's different. I'm on the DRB and that's different. Just like how is it different with BHP?
Well, so that would be a great question, Gary. So if you're on multiple boards that could necessarily impact Brattleboro housing, then you would need to, when we were voting on something, let's say we were voting on a development or we were voting on something, then that would be something that you would have to fully disclose that your interest in another group. And then the board would make that determination whether or not that was a conflict of interest or not. If you were personally gaining from anything, then that would be that you would, like if you worked as a contractor or you had a family member that was a contractor or you had a family member who was going to somehow get some sort of financial gain, whether it was someone who was on staff or something like that, then you would need to recluse yourself. but you can't recluse yourself just to recluse yourself. It would have to be approved by the board in order to recluse yourself. So it has to be a true conflict of interest.
It will be that disclosure, and that'll be the determination of the board whether it's deemable or for that reclusion.
Any questions?
I think it's a good policy.
Yeah. It is.
Do we have a motion to approve the conflict of interest policy?
A motion that we approve it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Man, thank you. Motion
Thank you.
approved. Good.
And so what will happen is I will send a copy for you all to sign, stating that you signed this policy, that you adhere to this policy. And then whenever there is a conflict of interest, we will have to, there's a separate form that will document for all the board. And then that will be in the permanent board notes.
That's fine.
Great.
Right, Christy, because if I see something like when you send the packets and I say, oh, wait a minute, I'm on DRB or plan, I would email you and Elizabeth ahead of time. And then at that time, once you know, I would present it at the meeting when we meet, and that'll you guys determine whether or not, okay.
Yep, exactly. Good. All right. Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, financial statement and update.
Yeah, so we met on December 9th. And it was Christine, myself, Lorelei, and Jeanette. We went over the current documents that we have. And then we talked about next steps of getting people on the board. So our next meeting, we are going to be prepared with a list of names that we want to discuss as potential BHOI members to ask and to pursue. So that will be our next meeting to be scheduled. And we just got another donation. I just got an email on it, so that won't be on this report, but it will be on the next report because that just came in today from so
how much was it for?
It was, am I allowed to say, Christine?
Yeah.
Okay. It was from Brattleboro Savings and Loan, and it was for, I don't want to misspeak, so I'm just pulling it up. $500.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Great.
That's great. And Billy Joe, I'm working with Billy Joe, our accounting administrator, to break down just the funds so that we know where all the money goes into the BHOI, but then how to break it down so that we know specifically what funds are for the playground project or what funds is from a different project, depending, as we start to apply for more and more money, we want to make sure that it's sort of put into different categories. So we're working on that right now.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. Any other questions for her?
Oh, so Alicia, basically this is an organization that you're in with Jeanette White and them to raise funds?
Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, it's a part of BHP. It's a nonprofit organization under BHP. So we seek advisement from the commissioners. I am a commissioner on that board, just to make sure that it follows all of the guidelines of BHP. But yeah, we raise money for specific projects. And the one that we're currently raising for is the playground at Ledgewood Heights, the family center.
Great.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is annually every year, basically. Is this monthly or is this something that you just
So it just started again. Yeah. So this would be our first project that we're working on, but we can accept projects that come through whenever a project comes up. So right now we are just as part of Jeanette's position through BHP. She's applying for grants and has done an amazing job. And so now we're just looking to get more members to help support those efforts.
That was a question I was going to ask you. How do you go about, I guess it's a question a lot of committees ask, recruiting new members?
Yeah, so the tactic that we're really working on, like we do with this committee, is reaching out to people that we know first foremost. So I ask all of you to think of someone that you may know that that could help a board with board development. So like the beginning stages of a board. So yeah, we would love someone with some grant writing, experience or some knowledge around that. But it's the beginning of it is just really trying to find people who could help us get started.
Great.
And how will they get to contact with you? How will they reach out to apply, I guess?
You can give them either one of our contacts, Christine's, myself's, Jeanette's, or Lorelai's, and then we'll bring it to that initial meeting and pursue it from there.
Okay, and is there information people could look at on the BHP website on there to see, just to get some, information? People who are coming into town, they want to say, hey, I would like to be on that.
So I don't know if you remember, we did go over this. So the board did approve what the materials are that we share.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can share that information with you. So to just give a little bit, so for those of you who might not know or might have forgotten, is that this is the nonprofit leg. This is the only part of our organization that's a 501c3. Everything else is not. Everything else is part of a quasi-municipal organization.
Right.
And so this is the only small area that we are able to raise money privately. And so we really need this board to be really strong in the sense that we really need to get the right people on this board who have really strong background with raising money. That's the primary thing of this board. This is like, there are some board, the board you're on for us, you don't need to raise any money. And that's very unique for a board. And then there's some boards where you do a little bit of both, governance and raise money. This is like a straight, you need to be, willing to go out and really try to get funds.
Right.
And so that, if you know of anyone who's really strong in that area, who has experience with that, or has really been able to raise a lot of funds for another organization, that might be where we, those are the people we're trying to sort of get into this group, if at all possible.
All right, I'll speak more, I guess, off record or off camera, whatever you want to call it, in regards to that, so I know what to pitch. Because I know a lot of people that do fundraising. I've done it. So just to get some more information and get out there and help you guys get this committee together.
Great. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Projects in process.
Byron has a question, I think.
Oh, sorry, Byron.
Oh, I think it's great the work that Alicia's been doing and Christine, and that you're out there looking for new board members. I would like to ask before we adjourn tonight, what you're doing or planning to do about a new board member for BHP.
Sure. So we have, so when you let us know, Byron, that you were resigning from your position, The town was notified right away, so they began their process of putting that information out. We also distributed, so I think we looked at our plan that we had created that as a board as to how to distribute this information. And so we distributed the information through the Department of Human Services email list, and all of that information was circulated more than once. The information was also posted on our website and our Facebook page. The information was then sent directly to community partners to circulate, and it was sent to all the BHP staff to also circulate. And so we do have one person that Liz and I have already met with for a briefing, and they are applying for the board, to the board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As a regular process, you would, Christine and Elizabeth, you'll be meeting with that person up, like how we were interviewing me and Patricia, correct?
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. For the projects in process, Christine, do you have any comments?
The only comment I have is that the Melrose project is essentially completed. We're just, we're getting all the finalized paperwork done. The last piece will be the survey. And so that's still in process.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the last piece, but the physical work has all been completed. So that's great news. And the only other thing I would say is that we have the SASH for All project, which is ongoing. And we've been working with HCRS to provide a peer support person, and we're hopeful that they're going to be able to do that. And we also recently had all the MOU signed, and so we're making a lot of progress. Elizabeth Bridgewater, also from Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, who's the other organization that is working with us on this project, applied for specific funds to bring in someone who is able to evaluate the program more in depthly. And so she did receive $50,000 for that position, which will then be looking at both of our programs and evaluating. So that was a big step, and that will really help us in securing funding for next year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So are there any other questions about anything anybody has? Byron, I just want to tell you how valuable you have been for this board. And we look forward to celebrating you in January. You're a very astute, thoughtful board member, and we really appreciate you.
You have been an impressive and nice chair to work for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will second Pat on behalf of, second Liz, on behalf of all of the BHP staff. We really appreciate your service to BHP, especially during this really challenging time of the transition of the executive director and a pandemic and building a new building and a big, huge $1 million FEMA project. You have been here through some really big projects. So thank you so much for your support.
And someday I will understand how the heck you do it.
I have to concur with Elizabeth and Christine. Even though we met this brief time, I have to say it truly was an honor. Learning a lot, growing a lot, and getting to know you in that time. And like I said, it feels like I've known you forever.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, is there any other business we need to take care of? All right. Well, we look forward to seeing everybody in January at our holiday celebration, belated. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And Happy Hanukkah to everyone. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody want to say?
Just wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays.
To dismiss.
The motion to move the meeting adjourned.
The meeting to be adjourned. I motion that.
And second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Great.
Great. See you in the new year.
And be safe, everybody. Please be safe. Great.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.